Apple and Google, I feel like, are screwing up big time in their mid-tier or budget phone offering department. So we know that Google has the A series phones, and Apple used to have the SE, but now they have the new iPhone 16e. Neither one of these phones, I think, are particularly great value at the prices that they offer, but both of them have significant problems, which is going to open the door for other companies to come in and hopefully kind of take advantage of that and exploit it. I mean, we've seen this with the OnePlus 13R, very good phone for the price point. You've seen this with, now we've got the Nothing Phone 3A, which it does have some of its trade-offs, and even their Pro model had some trade-offs as well, but also good pricing. But it's hard to get those phones. Availability, the beta program, they don't have the certifications for the full 5G in the US and things like that. So it makes it hard when we take a look at what's out there to recommend some of these phones. When you take a look at the iPhone 16e, $600 for a phone with one camera on the back, 60 hertz screen, that's still got the big giant cutout with Face ID. It doesn't have the dynamic island. It doesn't have MagSafe for charging. It's got the slow charging speeds. Like, it's just a mess, especially for $600. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible offering. And then you've got now the Pixel 9a, and they've done some foolish things as well, like the fact that it's got the modem from the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 8. We've already got concerns about it. It's not even open for pre-order because they're having some sort of a component quality issue that I'm reading some more rumors. It might be related to some heating issues or overheating, which the Pixel phones are not. They're not strangers to overheating. I mean, we had it happen a lot with the Pixel 5, the Pixel 5a, the 4a 5G. We had it happen with the Pixel 6 series phones. I mean, Google has had issues with that in the past. A lot of it, of course, because it has to, most recently with the Tensor chipset being made by Samsung and not being the best with heat. So it's very concerning when you see something like the Pixel 9a, and it may have heating issues. We don't know what this quality control issue is, which of course may be the heating. And then they're charging $500 for it, and it's got problems of its own, like the fact that it only has 8 gigabytes of RAM. We thought maybe they might have learned their lesson with the Pixel 8, but they didn't. It already can't run some of its AI features out of the gate because it doesn't have enough RAM for it. And then the modem, which, I mean, the modem is okay in the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 8, but the Pixel 9 greatly fixed that, and it just seems like they could have skimped on that stuff elsewhere. I mean, what kind of confidence does it inspire to get a phone that's supported for 7 years? It's based off of older hardware that wasn't the best to begin with, and you're charging $500 for it. Like I said, just get a Pixel 8a. Even when the price drops on the Pixel 9a, probably get the 8a, but I mean, heck, the 9a isn't even here yet. So, with the failed promises of Apple Intelligence, with Google's Pixel 9a can't even run some of its own intelligent stuff, that's just a whole nother level of issues that we have here with these phones. And then they want to charge $500 and $600 for these phones. Like, where did the mid-tier phones go? What happened to them, right? It's like we used to have very defined offerings in the low budget segment, and then we had the mid tier segment, and then the flagships. And it seemed like we had started to get some movement a few years ago in the mid section, and then now it's like, okay, the budget phones that used to be budget phones are the mid tier phones, but they're making terrible sacrifices in areas that they shouldn't be, or they're just flat out too expensive for the crap that they're putting out there. I mean, what happened to the phones that used to be impressive for the price point? We just don't see that anymore. And that used to be what the Pixel A series was. When the Pixel, like the 3A came out, the 4A, the 4A 5G, like they had some pretty decent phones at good price points. Even when the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 7 came out in the 500s, like those were really, really good phones. So I thought that, hey, these phones are so good now, they're kind of edging out the A series. We either need to make the A series cheaper, or we need to try and find a way to figure this out, because they were cannibalizing their own sales. And now their way of fixing that is like, no, no, no more will we have a budget Google phone. We'll just raise the price on everything. So now we're paying $799 for the Pixel 9, we're paying $999 for the Pixel 9 Pro, and we're paying $500 for the Pixel 9a. And then the same thing with the iPhone, with iPhone 16e. It's missing all these features, but you're going to save $200? Whoopity doo. So it's still a $600 phone with one camera and a bunch of parts from the parts bin. It's basically like a 3-year-old phone. And the whole justification for upgrading is because it's supposed to be built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence, which is still missing so many integral parts that make it what it actually is supposed to be. Heck, Apple's even being sued over this because it's not ready. It's not available. These iPhone 16 phones that were built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence is still missing. It took them weeks. It's like 5, 6 weeks before we got the first rollout in iOS 18.1. Then we got a couple extra silly things in iOS 18.2. And now here we are sitting around. Some of it's going to get pushed into next year. Some of these things that they advertise for the iPhone 16 will not even be realized until the iPhone 17 gets here, making the iPhone 16 basically a dead generation of phones. So there's a lot of frustration, especially when it comes to the mid-tier segment. When you take a look at what Google's doing, their shortcomings, phone even can't even pre-order. The iPhone 16e, I think we're going to find probably after we get some reports on this stuff, especially later on this year, I think we're going to find that it doesn't sell very well. And I think that the Pixel 9a is probably not going to sell very well either because people look at this stuff and people are not foolish. Like you take a, well, I mean, some are, but I mean, when you take a look at it and you take a look at people who actually care about these phones, I mean, is it really that big of an incentive to upgrade? No, not really. And then whenever it's supposed to be supported, like these phones nowadays are supposed to be supported for 7 years. Why would you want to buy a phone that's supposed to be supported for 7 years? It's already outdated when it comes out of the box and it's not that impressive. So is the strategy to try and eliminate the cheaper version of your phones and raise the prices so you can get higher profit margins? Or is the strategy make them price so high that it's not impressive enough and you want to go ahead and get the bigger phone? Across the landscape in the smartphone world, it's very frustrating now when you take a look at phones in the $400, $500, and $600 department. You take a look at the $600 iPhone 16e. I think it's a bust. You take a look at the $500 Pixel 9a. I think it's very lackluster. I'm not impressed there. And then you take a look at the Nothing phone. So I've got my full review on the Nothing Phone 3a coming out very soon. And the camera, I'm not that impressed with it. And the modem, not that impressed with it, especially because of the fact that it doesn't have full certification. I'm using it with T-Mobile, but I'm not getting good download speeds at all. Like the connectivity is not that great. It's reliable enough for phone calls, but I have certain instances where I'm trying to load stuff and it's just taking forever, like forever and ever and ever to load simple things or to download simple things, enough that it makes me not want to use the phone. And then if you want to get some of the certain colors or things like that, you got to go through the beta program. You can't just order it at a store. You can't walk into a Best Buy and pick one up. I think it's doing a lot of great things for companies like Motorola and OnePlus, who actually make really good phones in those price segments. You take a look now, I mean, you can get the Motorola Razr 2024. I think you can get it for like $499. You can get the Razr Plus for $699. Heck, I'd rather get a Motorola Razr Plus for $699, which is impressive. It's nice. It's beautiful. A lot of great features, flagship level hardware and quality, instead of buying a gimped out iPhone 16e. Or I'd rather get a Pixel 8a instead of a Pixel 9a. Or shoot, get a Pixel 8, Pixel 8 Pro. I mean, the prices on those have dropped a lot. There's just so many options out there. I really think that there's a lot of problems looming on the horizon because we take a look at this whole idea of 7 years of software supports and things like that. And I've said from the get-go that people don't hold on to their phones that long. The promises of them lasting that long are still suspect. And now you're making phones that are outdated and lackluster and say, oh, well, it's supported for 7 years. And then you're raising the price because of that. Like, nobody wants to pay higher costs for something that's not really tangible or not worth it in the first place, right? So you've got that. Then you've got these whole AI things. Google is supposed to be leading the way with AI, and then they make an A-series phone that can't even run its own AI. Or you take a look at the iPhone 16e and the whole iPhone 16s in general, and Apple Intelligence is just a farce. It's a joke, and Apple is so far behind the power curve in that department. Who knows when they'll catch up? And it's not like this is something where you can go, oh, we'll just buy a company's AI and then we'll use that. This has to be integrated, built from the ground up into your platform to be able to use it properly. So there's frustrations across the board in all these areas, and well, maybe it's actually a good thing for companies who aren't Apple or Google, because you've got companies like Motorola making really good phones at good prices. Of course, they've got their own shortcomings like long-term support, reliability with quick upgrades and updates and things like that. But when they release the phones, they're really, really good. The Razr phones have been fantastic. And then the OnePlus, the 13R has been kind of like a breath of fresh air. And if you can get one of those with the discount and savings, that's a really compelling phone too. So I hope that what this does is it spurs more competition and it allows some of the other smaller companies to pick up some of this market share and to make better phones that get more notoriety and more widely available and more praise that they might would have otherwise been glossed over for these phones from Apple and Google and Samsung. But there's a lot of concerns. I think there's the smartphone segment has been, we hit peak smartphone years ago. We all know this. So now everybody's trying to push this whole AI thing, and a lot of times I think the cart is before the horse, and I think the need is not there. I think the desire for companies to have the product be something that's necessary is there, but the products are not there yet. We're still looking for that it factor. We're still looking for a way to try and make this translate into realistic applications for the day-to-day user. There are certain applications that are nice. Heck, I was just in Japan this last week, and I love the interpreter function that Samsung brings to their AI. I use it every time that I travel. I've used it in Spain, I've used it in France, I just use it in Japan, and it's so nice because all you have to do, you go to your quick settings menu, you pull up interpreter, and I've still got it set up for Japanese. So here, let me show you something. I'll press the button, and I'll talk, and it'll translate it down here in the bottom into the actual written language, and it'll say it. Hey, this is a really cool feature. I love the interpreter function on the Samsung Galaxy S25 series. It's part of Galaxy AI, and it's part of, actual AI. It actually works. It's awesome AI, as Samsung calls it, instead of Apple naming it Apple Intelligence, which is not intelligent.
ねえ、これは本当に素敵な機能です。サムスン Galaxy S25 シリーズの通訳機能が大好きで、Galaxy AI の一部であり、実際の AI でも機能します。Apple が Apple インテリジェンスを目指しているのではなく、サムスンが言うところの素晴らしい AI です。
See, that's really cool. And then it starts down here in the bottom to where it'll start for the other person to translate for them
The
back and
rainy
forth.
season is a
Oh,
warning.
shoot. Let me turn that off. But anyway, like there's some meaningful stuff like that, but that's still not like AI is so amazing. It's starting to get some cool things here and there that are getting traction, but I get this in the comments so many times from folks who are like, "Oh, yeah, I don't care about AI. I don't care about AI. I don't care about AI." And it's frustrating whenever we talk about this in the context of, let's say, the Pixel 9a, and I say, "Oh, it can't run this AI stuff that the other phone's already been able to run." And that's a big push for Google. It seems like they're missing the mark in their own plan and development strategy for their products. And then someone's like, "Oh, I don't care because I don't care about AI." I don't care that you don't care about AI. It's not the point whether you care about AI or not. The point is they're making a phone that is basically obsolete in one of these pillars of software and features that they're trying to push. And they say this phone's going to be good for 7 years and it can't run the AI functions now. It just can't. So what's the point of the phone, right? So it's frustrating when you take a look at the iPhone 16e. It's frustrating you take a look at the Pixel 9a and having like an intimate understanding of these things, and then you see how that translates into satisfaction out in the real world. I think that people are very, very disappointed with the iPhone 16e, and I think people will be disappointed with the Pixel 9a. So where do we go from here? What phone do you recommend? What do you say? Okay, get a flagship phone from last year. A lot of times that's a good option because these phones are so pushed to the end now. Like they're so powerful that you don't necessarily need to get a phone that just came out. One that from a year ago that's a flagship is still going to be good for like 6 years in the flagship world, right? So anyway, I just wanted to talk about it. Yeah, the Pixel 9a is not here, of course, yet. I will probably get one and review it whenever it eventually gets here. And I've already reviewed the iPhone 16e, but it's just frustrating from my perspective taking a look at this and going, okay, iPhone 16e sucks, marketing gimmick, overpriced, doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and it's missing all these features. That's just a complete ripoff to their customer. And then you look at the Pixel 9a, I mean, it has its own problems. It doesn't have the SOS stuff because it doesn't have the new modem. It might be having heat issues. We know that it's delayed. You can't even pre-order it because of quality control issue. And we know that it won't run AI features that are already out now. It's got an old modem and it's got 8 gigs of RAM. It's going to be handicapped for the next 7 years it's supported because it doesn't have the RAM it needs to do things. So Yeah, it's going to be hard. I don't recommend the iPhone 16e at all, but I know people will buy it. And when I talked about that in my review, it's one of those things where, from a realistic perspective, there will be people that will get it, and it will run. It will run. It'll do, I mean, what it's supposed to do. The A18 chip, even though it has two less GPU cores than the Pro and it has one less than the regular, it's still going to do most things very, very well. And it's going to be one of those things where it's going to get pushed by carriers. Carriers are going to save that phone because they're going to give it to people free. But then you're going to have people who see this as an opportunity and get locked in with this gimped phone that they got for free with their carrier, through bill credits or trading or switching or whatever. And then I don't know. We'll see how sales go with the Pixel 9a, but I think it overall is going to be a smudge on what's been so good with the Pixel 9 series, because the Pixel 9, the 9 Pro, 9 Pro XL have been phenomenally fantastic phones, and they've been such good sales. I mean, you've been able to get these phones so cheap. They had the Pixel 9 Pro XL on sale for $699 the other day for a flash sale. I mean, for Pete's sake, that's insane. So yeah, there some phones and some companies doing some really good things. I think Apple's failing in a lot of areas. I just made a video saying, is Apple the new BlackBerry? Because they're making a lot of foolish decisions. They're making products that people don't want. They've had several products that have bombed. Apple Intelligence is so far behind. We don't even know how far behind it is, but it's so far behind they're being sued because they projected it like it was going to be ready, available, and capable of doing things that just can't do. So it looks like they might be going back to the drawing board in certain areas like that. So the mid-tier segment for the phones is not looking good in the US, because it's frustrating, because the phones that will be available at the carriers will likely be the Pixel 9a and the iPhone 16e. And we're still waiting on the Samsung A56. It's supposed to be here later this year in the US. That won't be available at carriers. The OnePlus 13R, not available at carriers. The Nothing phone, not certified on carrier networks and not available at carriers. So by de facto, the ones that are going to get pushed and people are going to end up buying, and I think are going to be wastes of money, are the iPhone 16e and the Pixel 9. So I don't know. It just leaves me, it leaves me frustrated looking at this and seeing what the options are out there. And I had such high hopes. I had high hopes for the Pixel 9a. I had hopes for what I thought would be an iPhone SE4 that turned in the iPhone 16e. But from where I'm looking at, from the outside looking in, and the experience I have so far, massive disappointment in the iPhone 16e and the Pixel 9a. But it's funny though, because the big thing people are complaining about is the lack of the defined camera bar on the back. And people can't make up their minds, because so many people are like, we hate that camera bar. We hate the camera bar. And then they take it away and they're like, oh, it's so bland now. That's what people are complaining about. So anyway, that's all I got. This is kind of like just sit here and kind of a discussing. I was just thinking about this stuff. I'm like, we deserve better. We deserve better than the Pixel 9a. We deserve better than the iPhone 16e. And where's that going to come from? Where are we going to get that satisfaction in the mid-tier department? And hopefully Samsung elevates their game, and it'd be nice if OnePlus would get back on carrier shelves. And it's great when you have phones like this, the Razer Plus 2024 and the Razer 2024, which are phenomenally good phones, and really those do inspire confidence and make you go, wow, this is a good phone for the price, and it does a lot of great things. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. I'd love to talk about this. I know this is a little bit unconventional from me in one of these video contexts, but I was just sitting here thinking about it and kind of want to just have this discussion about the disappearing mid-tier section of phones and how the guys leading the way, like Apple and Google, need to do better. So that's all I got. If you have any questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints, all those things, please go to the comment section. I'll do my best to get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.